everybody. Welcome to the Hidden Gems podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about some of our favorite streaming services, and we try to pick five. We each try to pick five selections that we think are hidden gems on that streaming service for you to check out. And it's a lot of fun. We do it every single Friday. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Ryan is here.
Hey, Rachel, so great to be back with you once again. And wow, technology has not been our friend today. Like trying to get into this Zoom meeting, it was harder than working out Chinese algebra, and you've had your own technical problems with not
Yeah.
recording things. It's just we're both having problems.
Yeah. It's been kind of intense day, but that is always a good time to talk to friends.
Yeah,
It's
indeed.
so stressful. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's it that I get we do laugh, but I mean that is just one of those things that just makes us human, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the monkeys, I'm worrying about us.
That's right. That's good. Yeah. So today we are talking about Netflix. So that's exciting. And we've talked about Netflix a number of times on this podcast and hidden gems. So we're going to try to talk about things that maybe we don't feel like get enough love as opposed to the big name properties that are on Netflix. And so it should be pretty fun. And yeah, how have you been doing, Ryan?
I'll be honest, I've had a couple of rough days because my father had to go to the hospital because, well, he got something stuck in his eye, and
Oh my gosh.
he's a chronic yard worker. He's always in that dang yard of ours, and because we live in Florida, it's an unwritten law somewhere that we have to have palm trees in our yard. And well, you can pretty much put two and two together from there. But thankfully, he went to the hospital, got it fixed. He's doing great. It's
Oh,
just
good.
it was it was a super worrying Saturday. But
Yeah.
other than that, my dad's a soldier. Like he'll forge his way through anything. And then
I'm
I've just
glad. I'm
had
glad to hear that he's okay.
thank
That's
you.
a
And
relief.
it just my I've had a couple days just outside of this, but honestly, it's knowing that I was going to be doing this with you today is just made me want to trudge through it even more. So that's all I've got to say about it.
Oh, well, me too, for real. Me too. Well, let's dive in. Let's talk about some of the hidden gems on Netflix. And I'll start. My first choice is actually a series. I finally finished it. My friend and co host of Hallmarkies podcast, Anne, she had been telling me to watch this for many months. And it's called Julie and the Phantoms. And it's got a pretty good place. I don't know how hidden it really is, but it's a very cute show. It's directed by Kenny Ortega, who is like the king of Disney Channel. He did all the High School Musical movies. He did the original Newsies. He's incredible, and he did the what's it called? The Descendants. He did the Descendants. So he has a lot of experience with teenagers and a lot of experience with music in shows. And in this case, it's about this girl, Julie, who has lost her mother. And so she's struggling, and she is a musician, but wasn't able to get into the music program at school. And so she's feeling depressed. And one day she ends up meeting these young men who turn out to be ghosts. And but the only time they can be seen is when they are playing music with Julie. So they become the Phantoms, Julie and the Phantoms. And it's a really charming, sweet show with a big heart to it. I kind of like more sort of Broadway type of singing, like in High School Musical, the series, better than this kind of more poppy songs, but it's still very good songs. And overall, I think the whole family could watch it and really enjoy it. And it's a good show. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, Kenny Ortega is kind of like He's like the choreographer's choreographer. Not only has
Yeah.
he done tons of work in movies and TV, but he also choreographed the music video for a little music video called Thriller. Some of you may have heard of it. So
Yeah.
he was a frequent collaborator with Michael Jackson, and he directed the movie Michael Jackson This Is It,
Oh yeah.
which was the making of documentary of Michael Jackson's supposed to be big concert before Michael Jackson unfortunately passed away. So Kenny Ortega got around and got a lot of work, as and still does. But
Yeah.
as far as this show, I had no idea this was being made. But it sounds like something that I would enjoy, because
Yeah.
it's I can't I know I've seen a movie with a similar premise, or kind of a similar premise. And whenever I thought about it, it just brought me back to a movie like The Last Starfighter, where it's about this boy who finds a cabinet video game, and it turns out to be a big recruitment program for an alien space fleet, which is a completely different thing. So I'll have to check this out. Just
It's really cute, and it's not too much of an investment. It's just 8 episodes, 30 minutes, so not too bad. And you get a cute story. So I'd recommend it. I think you'd like it. So what do you have first? You want to talk about?
So my first choice is a movie from 2012, and it is called Big Miracle. This was directed by Ken Kwapis, who is probably not really well known in the movie world, but in the TV world, he's like he's got some
Hmm.
credit to him. He's
Yeah.
directed many episodes of Malcolm in the Middle, many episodes of The Office. He's currently working on a show called Black AF. I'll let you fill out the rest from there. And
Yeah, I actually, it's kind of cool that I did for Hallmarkies podcast. I did an interview with Michael Rady, who he told a story about Ken Kwapis in the interview, because when he directed the very first movie that Michael Rady was in was The Sister to the Traveling Pants, and I guess at one point this is literally his first project, major feature film like this. And I guess at one point he accidentally called cut, and I guess he like called him over, and he's like, "That's my job. It's okay."
um,
But he was saying how just incredibly nice of a man that he was, and a good director. So yeah, he's done a lot of fun stuff.
yeah,
I haven't seen this.
Kwapis directed one of my favorite episodes of The Office called Company Picnic, where
Oh,
where the Scranton branch of Dunder Mifflin is fighting the other branches in a volleyball tournament, and Scranton wins. However, in that same episode, we learn that Jim and Pam are going to be having a little Jim or Pam, who turns out to
oh
be
yeah.
their first daughter,
Mhm.
Cece. So that was just a great episode. But pivoting away from The Office, Big Miracle is based on a true story of a man named Adam, played by John Krasinski. I know how to talk, and and he's a reporter in this very very small Alaskan town. Like, it's barely being able to be found on a map, like one of those places. And he learns that underneath the growing Arctic Circle, there's a family of whales underneath there, and the ice is forming so fast that they can't escape. So Adam finds his ex-girlfriend, played by Drew Barrymore, who also happens to volunteer for Greenpeace, to find a way to get the whales back out to the open ocean. This is a movie that definitely flew under the radar, and when I saw it, I remember seeing it with my mom. We both really enjoyed it. I really like these smaller true stories like this, because in many ways the truth is stranger than fiction, and in some cases you're like, there's no way that that actually happened, and then you look it up and you're like, oh, it did happen. and and of course John Krasinski is great in this movie. He's great in most of the things he is involved with. Hopefully A Quiet Place 2 gets released, fingers crossed. But Drew Barrymore's really good in there as well. I like the relationship with the little boy. I can't remember his name, but I like the relationship there. He listened to U2, so he's awesome. And it's just a very touching story, and
Uh-huh.
and I just my heart grew 3 sizes after watching it.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about it. I've never seen it, but it seems like a great pick for family movie night. So maybe I'll have to do it one of
Yeah,
these weeks.
that's definitely a worthy candidate for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Well, my next choice is definitely debatable about hidden gems, but because it's pretty popular. But I went ahead and wanted to talk about it anyway. And it's the Great British Baking Show, or the Great British Bake Off if you're in England. They couldn't call it that here because I guess Pillsbury owns the term bake off. Like they have it trademarked or whatever.
Really?
So, yeah, that's what someone told me at least. So, the Great British Baking Show, and they have 9 seasons, and I knew that I would like it, but I was just like, I can't dive in there. I can't make that commitment. And but then I finally did watch 2 seasons over between December and January, and it's such a good show. I knew I would love it, and I did love it. And I think what makes it good compared to the Food Network shows, which I also do love, is that they don't make them rush so much. Like they still have time limits, and it still can be a problem, but they give them a pretty long time to do most of the challenges. And there's 3 challenges per episode, and so you really feel like you get to know the contestants very well, especially the ones that hang around for a long time. You feel very invested in them, and the judges are fun, and you get to see a lot of different stuff made over the course of the season. So that's fun, and you get to learn that they call cookies biscuits in England, which I didn't know about.
I remember when I went to Ireland, someone said, "Hey, you want to get some biscuits?" And I'm like, "Wait, like, is there a fried chicken place around
Yeah,
here?" And then I was like, "Oh wait, cookies and biscuits are like terms that
yeah,
switched around." So
it was
bit of a
funny.
learning curve.
Yeah, and you can see all different kinds of custards and cakes and all kinds of stuff like that made, and it's just very entertaining. It's a good show. It
Yeah,
makes you hungry though.
for sure. When I was younger, I would watch like endless marathons of like Chopped and Iron Chef America and The Worst Cooks in America and all of the wars shows like Cupcake Wars and Christmas
Yeah,
Wars and Halloween Wars.
I know.
I I don't know why. There was just something about those shows that I just loved. It was like with Chopped, you know, in one basket you could get like chicken and gravy candy canes and like ostrich in a basket. Or in I remember in one basket they got like bacon popcorn and some
Yeah,
weird obscure rice. You know, it's just shows like that just fascinate me because it's like you take these really executive chefs, you know, like in any other world, they're the number one, but then they're
yeah,
thrust into this world where they've got to like say, all right, you got 15 minutes, you've got ramen noodles and salt, go.
yeah,
And you force it in front of judges. And so
yeah.
shows
I
like
love
that just
Chopped too. I think that this show is probably more like Top Chef, because you're with the same people episode after episode after episode, as opposed to Chopped. You know, we're new every time. And so yeah, but I always have it on my DVR, Chopped, every Tuesday night. So I'm with you there. With you there. So that's my second choice, The Great British Baking Show. It's very entertaining.
shout out to Judge Scott Conant and his absolute hatred for raw red onions.
Yeah, I'm with him there. I agree. The thing about raw onions is that they just take over all the other flavors. So that's all you can taste.
Pretty much, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like you take one and it's like, oh well, there goes the rest of the meal.
Yeah, that's right. But what is your next pick?
So my next pick is another movie based on a true story. I didn't plan this. I was just scrolling through and I was like, oh, Big Miracle going, and then this movie going. It's from 2017 and it is called Chappaquiddick. This was directed by a man named John Curran, who is this movie is really all that he's known for. He directed some smaller movies, but this is like his big like coming out movie. And Chappaquiddick is again based on the true story of what happened one night in 1969 when Ted Kennedy left a woman in a car at the bottom of a river. And the movie does a great job of showing how potentially devastating this all is, because around that time the Kennedy name was still held in pretty high regard, especially in the case around this time, because John F. Kennedy had died on November 22nd, 1969, and Robert Kennedy was either about to be assassinated or around this time. My
Mm-hmm.
timeline's a bit off, but but the movie does a great job of documenting just how just how dangerous this all is, because Ted Kennedy is set up to be the next big thing. And the last thing anyone needs is this whole incident being drudged up into the forefront. And so this if leave any political ideologies off to the side. This is one of those movies where it's just a straight up drama, and it's done really well. The cast is absolutely stacked. Jason Clarke is in it. He's really good. Kate Mara's in there. Ed Helms in a rare serious role. He's good in there as well. Bruce Dern is in there. Always love Bruce Dern. Even Jim Gaffigan gets a serious role, and he's primarily known for comedy, and he does pretty well as well. And then there's Clancy Brown as Robert McNamara. Love Clancy Brown. The movie's just got a pretty stacked cast, and like I said, I just suggest leaving any predetermined feelings off to the side and just enjoy the quality of the movie, because on the whole, it's really well done. I remember seeing this, and I was like the only one in the theater, which is really sad, because I think this was very well made.
Yeah, I remember hearing pretty good things about it, but I haven't seen it. So that's definitely one I need to check out. And you have Jason Clarke playing Ted Kennedy, is that right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that is a good cast.
be prepared for a lot of Boston accents. Yeah, Ed Helms' character is named Joseph Gargan, and every time it's like, this is Joseph Gargan, and he is my assistant. And I'm like, every time I hear that, I'm like, he parked his car in the Harvard, yeah.
You're like, what is Mark Wahlberg in this or something? What's happening?
Like, this takes place in the Goodwill Hunting universe or something.
Right. Very good. Okay. Well, my third recommendation for y'all today is the 100-Foot Journey. And this is a movie about, it stars Helen Mirren as this woman who is this French chef, and she has everything to a T. Everything's very precise and planned and perfect. And 100 feet away from her, all of a sudden an Indian restaurant gets opened up, and there's this rivalry between the two. But then they end up kind of, through various things, end up coming more and more into contact with each other, and how they actually end up learning from each other. It's really cute. And the food, woo, it will make you so hungry. You do not want to be on an empty stomach when you watch this movie, because you will be starving.
You will regret it.
Yes, because the food styling is just absolutely incredible in this movie, both the Indian side and the French side. So, and Helen Mirren's great as always.
Mhm. Yeah, this movie was directed by Lasse Hallström, who also directed Chocolate. So if there's any guy that you want to direct a food-related movie, that's who you call.
Yeah, I guess so. That's funny.
Like, yeah, I remember seeing this in the theaters, and I was honestly surprised at how much I really enjoyed it. I saw it with my mom, and I was thinking, oh, well, at least I'll be, seeing it with my mom, and that'll be nice. And
Hmm.
I turned out to really enjoy it. I love
Yeah.
I love the dynamic between Madame Mallory and Papa, and there's this one scene where Mallory's like, maybe you should turn the heat down, and then Papa's like, I shall turn the heat up. And it's such a nice like it's clear that they don't like hate each other, but it's like competition for the very first
Yeah.
time, and it's like trading barbs. But then, and I won't spoil it, but after something happens to the Indian restaurant, there's a very tender scene where Mallory actually does some repairs on the restaurant, and she is like, "Oh no, I'm not doing this for me. I just hate looking at your restaurant all the time." But she
Right.
all her mind really knows is first gear, so it's hard for her to communicate, "I'm trying to help."
Yeah.
It's in the hands of any other director, it would have just gone, but Lasse Hallström did a really good job of it.
I agree. I agree. And like I said, just getting a sense of atmosphere and place, and all the performances are good. And so if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. So what is your next pick?
So my next pick is another one from 2017, and it is called Hostiles. This was directed by Scott Cooper, who also directed Crazy Heart, a movie that I have not seen, though I have heard a lot of good things about. And he
Hmm.
also directed Black Mass, which I've also recommended. I believe on one of the Hoopla episodes, if my memory serves me right.
That
But
sounds right. And
but
it was your pick for Johnny Depp.
Oh yes, that's true. That's what I was thinking of. But Hostiles is a movie is a movie that takes place in 1892. It's about an army captain played by Christian Bale who is assigned to take, and I want to get I, who is assigned to take these Native Americans to back to their their reservation. My apologies, but at nearly every turn, they are attacked by, well, hostile Native Americans, for lack of a better word. And when I saw this, I just immediately fell in love with it because it was one of those movies that I felt like it was a bit of a throwback to a movie like maybe Clint Eastwood would have made, like somewhere in between Outlaw Josie Wales and Hang 'em High. Christian Bale's in there. I mean, we all know who he is. He's excellent in most of the things he's in. Most. Rosamund Pike is in there as well. She's really good in most of the things she is in. There are many really, really good gunfights in here, and there's an especially good fight between Christian Bale and Ben Foster that I won't go too into detail about. It can get a bit long in the tooth. The movie is 2 hours and 14 minutes, and sometimes it's a lot of just riding across the desert. And I think the movie was trying to get across the fact that this is a very long journey, but this was definitely one of those instances where they could have told us and not shown us. But that's a small gripe. I still think this was a really well made, and I felt like it was a bit of a throwback to days gone by.
That's really cool. I remember hearing about it, but I actually haven't seen that one either. And I think, I don't know if it was the length or just the fact it's a Western. But yeah, I mean, it sounds really good. And so I'll have to check it out. So, all right. Well, my fourth pick is a movie called Carol. And you could even count this as a Christmas movie if you wanted. And this is a lesbian love story with Kate Blanchett playing a woman named Carol. And there is a woman played by Rooney Mara who is becomes involved with Kate Blanchett's character with Carol, and they do a really good. It's directed by Todd Haynes, and he is such a great director, and he really manages to have such a sense of place, and you really get the sense of the 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 longing for each other that the two have, and I think that they have really good performances, both of these actresses. And it's a little bit of a slow burn for some people might feel that way. But I think that the characters are really well done, so it's worth it. It's just under 2 hours. But I think there's such chemistry between Teresa and Carol that you kind of want both these characters to be happy, and it's a story, LGBT love story that doesn't end like too tragically, which is nice. I mean, it's a realistic ending, but it's not like a weeper, I would say. So I think it's a beautiful, beautiful movie. Sarah Paulson's in it. Kyle Chandler plays Carol's husband, and he is such a good job. And I thought he should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor, because he took a character that could have been very one note and gave it a lot of meaning. You really felt sorry for him. That, I mean, it's not his fault that his wife is a lesbian, and so that's a tough situation for him, and so it made you feel for characters that might have just been a jerk, in a lesser movie. Anyway, it's really well done, and I recommend it.
Yeah, Kyle Chandler is a super underrated actor. Like
Mm-hmm.
pretty much everything I've seen him in, he's knocked it out of the ballpark. From Friday Night Lights to Godzilla King of the Monsters and everywhere in between. Like if he's there, it's like, okay, this is gonna be good. And as far as Todd Haynes goes, I don't know if you've seen the movie I'm Not There, which is a movie loosely based on the
Mm-hmm.
life of Bob Dylan. I grew up listening to a lot of Bob Dylan, and so it was one of those movies that I was just like, I don't know how I feel about this. But the more I've thought about it, the more I do like it. I think Haynes is a very experimental director, but he has enough of a story going to where you're like, it doesn't matter how off the rails he does get, he eventually does find his way back. So
Yeah.
in a way, he's kind of like Frank Capra in that it doesn't matter how dark you get, as long as John Wayne gets to ride off into the sunset, then it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. He also did a movie called Safe, which is really interesting, with Julianne Moore, and about a woman who starts to feel all the more paranoid about the environment that she's in. She gets worried that she has infectious diseases, and that the air isn't clean, and she starts just kind of spiraling. And it's a really good film. It was actually the first movie that we ever did for the Criterion Project, me and Conrado, and so that's a lot of fun. And it's a really interesting movie. And so he's a great director, and I think people would like Carol if they're open to a little bit of a slower burn. So what do you have next?
So my next choice is a movie from 2016, and when I gave you my list, you gave me the thumbs up on it. So it's a movie you've definitely seen. It's called Midnight Special. This was directed by Jeff Nichols, who also directed a movie called Mud, starring Matthew McConaughey, which is super underrated. If you all have not seen Mud, do
Agreed.
do so. And he also directed a movie called Take Shelter, which is again super underrated. It when I saw it, I'm like, is Hitchcock still alive? What happened here? And I don't throw that around lightly. So, but in terms of Midnight Special, it's the story of a man named Roy, played by Michael Shannon, who I want to say is accompanying his son named Alton across country after a series of rather unfortunate events. And we learn through the movie that Alton has, well, supernatural abilities. And not only are these two being chased by the US government, but they're also being chased by a very obsessed cult, which is led by a man named Father Calvin Meyer, played by Sam Shepard. And the movie was a big surprise for me. It was one of the biggest surprises of 2016 for me. It was one of those movies where I was like, okay, I'm thinking this will be just a run of the mill like chase movie, and I like those. But no, this movie actually has depth to it and a little bit of nuance that I honestly didn't expect from something like this. Uh, I think Michael Shannon gets a bit of a bad rap because he's known as the "I will find him" guy from Man of Steel, or just as like the "I'm Michael Shannon and I am really acting like this." He's very Michael Shannon, God bless him. But here, he's actually really good, and he kind of dials it down a tad. It's really quite good. Joel Edgerton is in here as well. He's really good. Kirsten Dunst is in here, and she's great.
Adam
But
Driver.
I was going to go to Adam Driver. I think the Star Wars sequels have really been a benefit to Adam Driver because it's given him more of a platform to show just how good of an actor he is in movies like Silence and Black Klansman and Midnight Special and Logan Lucky, and I could go on. But if the sequels have done anything, it's given more of a spotlight to him, and we're all the better for it. And this movie is, like I said, it's just very underrated. It severely went under the radar. I think Jeff Nichols needs to do more stuff because he's directed 3 movies. They've all been great, and nobody talks about them. He's like Joseph Kosinski. He directed Tron Legacy, he directed Oblivion, and he's going to be directing Top Gun Maverick. But it just, nobody talks about him, despite
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Kosinski having a very strong visual style. And in the case of Jeff Nichols, he makes very tense and very character driven movies, and nobody talks about him. And it's really sad. And we need to talk about Jeff Nichols more.
Now, what did you think about the ending of this movie without giving it away? Did you like it?
Whew, that's
Because I
gonna
know
be
that's kind of controversial.
that's gonna be difficult without spoiling it though.
But
Uh
just overall, did you like it?
I thought it was a I did like it. I think on the whole, I think it was kind of leaning towards a certain way, and I'm like, okay, if I were writing this, I would go more towards that direction. And largely speaking, I think it did. I may be alone, but I think the ending was good.
No, I enjoyed it and I liked the ending, but I just knew a lot of people that didn't like it. So I was just curious what you thought. But yeah, this is a very creative, very original sci-fi film that I definitely think is underrated. So I think it's a very good pick. And yeah, I'll have to watch it again. It's been a little while since I saw it, but it's a good film. And I completely agree with you on Jeff Nichols. I mean, he's fantastic, and all of his films have been quite good. And he hasn't made, I feel like he hasn't made a movie in a while. So I think Lovin' was his last one. And so hopefully we'll get more from him soon.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. All right. Well, my last pick is definitely maybe a bit of a stretch as a hidden gem, but and it's a movie that I have a mixed relationship with, but I still think it's worth watching. Is The Princess and the Frog. The Princess and the Frog, when it first came out, I was very disappointed in it actually, and I was not the movie that I had hoped from the trailers and from everything. And the animation is so beautiful, but I do think it was a mistake that the plot is so convoluted, and they have uh, so much time with her as a frog, and I never really liked Naveen that much. So there were a lot of things that I didn't like, but the good things about it that make it, I think, worth watching is the absolute beautiful animation and the fun songs by Randy Newman. And I think Tiana is a really good character. I really like her as a Disney princess archetype. I mean, she's a hard worker. She has dreams, goals, and I think she's great. I also love her friend Lottie. I think she's hilarious, and so I enjoy that. I have mixed feelings about the Shadow Man. I think that the animation's great, but I don't know, some of the elements with the voodoo and other things were a little much for me. I felt like, I don't know, I didn't really love that, but still overall, I think it's worth watching. It's a Disney 2D animated film. We haven't gotten much from them since, and so yeah, I think it's worth checking out.
Yeah, I've actually only really seen clips of this movie. I think I've really dined in Tiana's restaurant more than I've actually seen the movie. I know how strange that sounds, but it is what it is. I've always wanted to see it because it looks really interesting, and everyone has told me that it's good, so I gotta go out of
Yeah.
my way and see it.
Yeah, the movie is a dream for Disney food. I mean, in Disneyland, you have New Orleans Square, so you can go get beignets
Po' boys.
and mint julep, which is the yummiest, and a great bargain for how much you get. I think it's three of these beignets for like $5, which for Disney, that's a good price.
Yeah,
And
for Disney food, that's like pennies.
yeah, that's right. And so, Yeah, and they're gonna have the new overlay for Splash Mountain is going to be Tiana based. It's going to be Princess and the Frog based. So they waited way too long for that. That's been a long time coming, but I'm excited about it as well. And so yeah, check out Princess and the Frog. It's not perfect, but it's still worth watching. So what is your last pick?
So my last pick is once again from 2016, and this is the tail end of 2016. I just noticed the theme, like pretty much all my movies, with the exception of Big Miracle, we're all in
Well, they
one.
don't have that many old films on Netflix. I actually had a harder time this time finding hidden gems. It was a little bit harder. I felt like.
Yeah, me too. And it was just like it just got down to okay, what do I like? And then like I found
Right.
a list and was like, okay, like that can go. But side road. My last choice is Patriots Day. This was from late 2016, like into 2017, and this is the movie of the chronicling of the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing. We all know what that is. It's a damn tragedy what happened there. But when I heard that this movie was being released, I normally don't do this, but I'm like, guys, it literally just happened like 3 years ago. Like too soon much, but if it had to be made, I'm glad we got it with the cast that we did and the director that we got in Peter Berg, because he directed Lone Survivor and he directed Deepwater Horizon along with this. And because those two movies and Patriots Day were directed by Peter Berg, and it also stars Mark Wahlberg, I call it the Bergenberg Trilogy because it's like Peter
Yeah,
Berg and Mark
very good.
Wahlberg. But this is the tail end of the trilogy. And again, for a movie that I was like, really, are we making a movie about this? Like, not even like 2.5, 3 years afterwards. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it turned out to be quite good. The cast in this movie is absolutely loaded. Mark Wahlberg, like I mentioned, Michelle Monaghan, who's great, J.K. Simmons, my man, John Goodman, a very skinny looking John Goodman. Like, holy crap, when I saw him, I'm like, oh, someone's been hitting the Peloton. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and Kevin Bacon is in there as an FBI agent. He's always nice to see. Alex Wolff from the Jumanji movies, the new Jumanji movies, is the brother of the is one of the brothers that did the thing, and I won't say his name because I hope he burns in hell, but that's neither here nor there. And playing a
Yeah.
terrorist must have been truly difficult, but he really did pull it off. And this is just a very I wouldn't recommend watching this as like, oh, I'm in a good mood. Let's watch what do we want to watch tonight? Patriots Day? All right, let's go. Because that's gonna end real quick. Like this is very much like Titanic in that you need to be prepared for what you are about to watch. But
Yeah.
when you do watch it, it's quite good. And it had one of my favorite scenes of 2016 in there where Mark Wahlberg has just gotten off a shift. He's been through hell on earth and he just collapses on the couch and Michelle Monaghan just asks him what happened out there and he just breaks down in tears. Like I can't even do the scene justice. It's so brutal because you know, it was just supposed to be just a normal day, just a Boston Marathon. I've been to marathons. They're pretty chill events, but not this time. And just, it's a truly terrible event. And if a movie had to be made about it, I'm glad that we got what we got.
Yeah, and they do such a good job of really immersing you in the events that are happening. And especially, I thought some of the script was kind of not great going before the explosion, and then once it happens, it's just boom, 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 and one thing after another, after another, after another, one reveal, and you feel like you're kind of on the ground with them. And I remember when that happened and following each step, it just glued to my television, watching as things got crazier and crazier, and the investigation, when they found him in that boat and just everything, it was wild, and they really captured that immersive feeling in this movie. So I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, and also watch Lone Survivor and Deepwater Horizon, so you
Yeah,
you all can complete the trilogy.
yeah, you get your Bergenberg cred. Very good. All right, we did it. We'll have 5 each, 10 total. More recommendations on Netflix. So let us know what you think of our picks and what you would be and what you've been watching on Netflix. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section or on Twitter. And Ryan, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. Then there is, of course, my YouTube channel, which is just called Ryan Cam. This past Sunday, I uploaded my video where I talked about rewatching all of the Michael Bay Transformers movies. I think I lost some brain cells while recording it, but it was one of the more fun videos that I've ever made. So go check that out. We're recording this on a Tuesday, which means yesterday I released the AFI project video for Jaws. So go check that out. And then tomorrow, a Wednesday, I'll be dropping my video for Rocky. So definitely check that out. And then this
Oh,
coming
good ones.
Sunday, I'll be talking about an animated movie. It's going to be the next chapter in my I Finally Watched series. And it's going to be all about Castle in the Sky, the first
Ah.
Studio Ghibli movie. So a lot to look forward to on my channel. If you haven't checked me out, I humbly ask that you please do. I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I'm very proud of where we're going. So check me out, please, if you haven't.
Yes, everybody subscribe. It's really good stuff. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And also at the Hallmarkies podcast. We have interviews. We have lots of fun stuff going on over there. And we also have our Patreon group, which we have our monthly watch alongs and other fun stuff going on. And then we have our merch store, which has some really fun designs. So check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.